Alright, new selection pack, Eternal Partners, so let's do another tier list on the Master Duel meta. And as always, feel free to come back to this tier list in a couple weeks and laugh at how wrong I am about it. And also, if there's a deck here that I'm missing, even though I include a lot, so I hopefully I'm not missing too many, but if there's one that I don't mention here, bring it up in the comments, let me know, I'll respond to it. But most likely, if a deck is not included in here right now, it probably means that I would just consider like low rogue at best, most likely. So to start with, there's actually quite a few new cards from the selection pack. You know, it's not just the ones everyone was talking about. We have some Magic Specter cards, since Magic Specter Kieran came back to 3. And I just want to point out that there was a lot of, for lack of a better term, shit in the pack. And this new Magic Specter support is it's not good. It belongs in the same category as like the new. There's Ogdo Addicts, there's Shino Barons. None of those decks are really gonna be any good in any form of like standard non-event Master Duel meta. But yeah, especially Magic Specter. The entire gimmick of Magic Specter is that none of their monsters can be targeted, except they printed a new Link 1 that can be targeted. So literally, the game is literally just tells you what to hand trap and what to imperm. Like, you literally have an imperm in hand, and you don't have a chance to fire it off incorrectly, because it just tells you the choke point immediately, lights up as soon as they summon the one monster, their new Link monster, that can be imperm. It's like you literally give a monkey a deck, and they could probably beat Magic Specters if they open the right hand, just because. That's yeah. Wow. I don't expect too much of Magic Specters. And Watt Kuki. What? Yeah, whatever. The other Magic Specter card, the Draco Slayer Q, the Ryu or whatever this card is called. This is I'm not gonna evaluate it as a Magic Specter card because in my opinion I think the Magic Specter deck is pretty buns, but it is a Draco Slayer card, and Draco Slayer I think is a lot better as a pendulum deck than Magic Specter, because it actually has a ceiling. You know, it can do the classic pendulum spam bodies in the field, make an end war, all that stuff. Now I'm not sure where to put this because I don't have experience with Draco Slayers that much, and I don't know if it has like the classic pendulum problem. I know I got a bit roasted when I mentioned True Kings or Supreme King last tier list, when I mentioned that it doesn't have room for non-engine. That was my bad. That was completely my fault. I'm ignorant to this pendulum strategy. But yeah, Supreme King has a lot of room for hand traps and non-engine. Like relatively for, you know, a pendulum strategy. I've seen Supreme King decks with like 13 or even 14 plus hand traps in it, which is way more than literally any other pendulum strategy before. So having room for non-engine is positive. I'm not sure if you put if Draco Slayer necessarily has the same amount of room as Supreme King, because I feel like you have to include more cards in order for it to work, which means less non-engine, which then we get back into the classic pendulum problem of you know, no flex spots and all of that stuff, and like tight deck building and struggling going second. But yeah, between these two, like I think these two are going to be the most prominent pendulum strategies, unless you're that one Giga Chat that always tops Duelist Cups with that one Endymion player that always tops 100 of Duelist Cup with Endymion for some reason. I don't know how that guy does it. But yeah, between whichever one of these, I'll put the better pendulum strategy on tier 3, and I'll put the worst pendulum strategy in Rogue. Well, yeah, let me know if Draco Slayers is as good as Supreme King or not, or if it also has the same problems as typical pendulum decks do. And now to the opposite of, you know, classic pendulum decks that sometimes struggle for non-engine space. We have Centurion, which is literally the deck. I think Centurion is now the deck that has the most room to run non-engine and hand traps in the game. It used to be like something obscure like Marincess, but now looking at this, I think I have more room for hand traps in Centurion than I did in Marincess, assuming I'm running pure, you know, which is like 18 and 40, which is, you know, that includes all the max C stuff. That includes running Call by and Cross-All and all that for the maxi minigame and all of that stuff too. So yeah, this is just non-engine the deck, which it kind of has to be now since Calamity got banned, and the main purpose of this deck's engine is literally just to make level 12 synchros. But, you know, they banned the best one, so now you're going from Calamity to Cosmic Blazar. So, like, you're literally going from a turn skip to one negate, which, you know, that's kind of rough. Like, the deck's engine puts up maybe 2 points of interaction in its 1-card combo. Like, your best hands can maybe end on level 12 synchro on your opponent's turn, so like a Cosmic Blazar, for example, plus a Farfa like Vanish effect with their trap card Phalanx, and that's pretty much it. This deck needs non-engine. It's not like Snake Eyes where their 1-card combo resolve gives them like 3, 4, 5 plus interruptions. Like you're not gonna be able to win the game off of just resolving your own combo with this. So, but it is, you know, if you do want to just play a deck that has hand traps, and you want to play a deck that when you go second, you want to be able to make sure you open multiple hand traps, this is probably the best bet for you. It's, I mean, I guess I can consider better than a deck like Marincess, which I would put somewhere in like mid-roguish, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt for now, and maybe there's some hybrid versions with Centurion that increase the ceiling further, but yeah, this is just typical 1-card combo deck, tons of non-engine, that kind of stuff. But it does have the advantage of this is the one deck of that like archetype of decks where it's just like the non-engine and like 1-card combos, is that this deck can't it doesn't lose to Nibiru because its combo physically cannot play through Nibiru. It doesn't have enough gas and extension to actually play Nibiru in the first place. It does its entire combo in 4 summons. So yeah, that's a positive, I suppose. And now the deck everyone's talking about from the new pack, the deck that actually most people I think care about from the new pack is Yubel. So Yubel, I think, is pretty good. It's by far the best new deck from the selection pack, and I think it's might even be one of the better decks in Master Duel right now. It is, however, not a finished product in Master Duel yet. We're missing a few important cards for Yubel, so this isn't its final form even. Namely, one of them is Barudra, so rank 10 exceeds, which is literally just an Omnigate that the TCG and OCG have, and we don't have that here, so Yubel is literally missing a free Omnigate on its end board, which, you know, right now the deck's end board doesn't really have any hard negates on it, so it is a relatively big deal and like decrease in the ceiling of the deck. Also, Fiendsmith cards that we don't have in Master Duel, and Fiendsmith is helpful for playing through hand traps and all that stuff, and also it bridges all your engines together. You know, like it connects Dark Beckoning Beast and the Opening of Spirit Gate directly into your Yubel combo, whereas if you want to do that right now, you're gonna have to do some convoluted line that involves like running a bunch more bricks in the main deck and slots in the extra deck, plus discarding a few cards, like sort of in like an all-in combo if you want to really make use of Dark Beckoning Beast and Skates to get access to the Yubel engine, which it's still doable, but those lines are a lot less safe. I think this is one of the better decks to Master right now. I don't think it's among the best decks. You know, it's not like the Fire decks, namely Fire King Snake Eyes, which spoilers, I still think that stuff level above Yubel. Right now, Yubel is feels kind of, it's like in a weird place in that it's the deck that doesn't have room for the most non-engine. So sometimes going second feels weird, but then sometimes you also run Super Poly, and Super Poly is like iffy matchup wide. It's like more of a card that's better going first than going second, because going second, a lot of disruptions, especially like in the Yubel mirror or like against Fire Kings, are not on the field, so Super Poly doesn't really handle all that you want. But like going first, obviously it's an insane board wipe, especially if you run the package for like the Yubel fusion to fuse all of your opponent's monsters. But yeah, this, I could be wrong, this deck might even be better than that, but I'll tentatively put this like around here. I guess it'll make more sense for Yubel when I fill out the rest of the tier list relatively to the other decks. So Fire King Snake Eyes, this is probably definitively the best deck right now, especially with the hit the Bonfire. This is the best Snake Eyes version you could be playing in Master right now, and it's also probably the best Fire King version you could be playing around. I know there's people that are talking about how Pure has more starters and all that stuff, which I never understood that logic, how Pure has more starters, because Pure is just Fire King Snake Eyes, except minus the Snake Eyes cards and minus the Diabellstar cards, when Snake Eyes and Diabellstar cards themselves are starters. So I don't know how cutting starters leads to having more starters, and those starters, like the Snake Eyes cards with Bonfire and the Poplar and Diabellstar, can act as extenders too, and not just normal summons. So I'm not sure about that. And also the way that people are building Fire King Snake Eyes out, they're building it very similarly to Pure Snake Eyes, in that they're adding all of the benefits that Pure Snake Eyes has, like the All-Canics, right? But many Fire King Snake Eyes decks are running multiple copies of All-Canics plus the OG Garunics, because that card is actually just pretty broken, and it's having another normal summon. It works when you don't have to normal summon Snake Eyes Ash and Fire King Snake Eyes. You can Bonfire for Poplar and special summon it, and then access your original symbol spoils that way. You can reserve your normal summon for All-Canics, as people have learned. So you can have all the ceiling and all of the starters and all the benefits of Pure Snake Eyes, but also you have better extenders than Diabellstar and Poplar. The only thing is that you have less non-engine space, so you can probably run less hand traps, and you can't really use floodgates like Pure does. But in my opinion, that's also a better change for the game. A deck that runs less hand traps, it's something that I would prefer over a deck that just does one card combos and runs like 15 plus hand traps. That's what really contributed to making Yu-Gi-Oh miserable. But yeah, well, speaking of Fire King Snake, Fire King Snake Eyes, it's a fine. I mean, Fire King Snake, Pure Snake Eyes, Pure Fire King is a fine deck. I just think that the way people are building Fire King Snake Eyes now, it's that Fire King Snake Eyes has all the benefits of Pure right now, and also has the benefits of the Snake Eyes and Diabellstar cards. But sometimes Pure Fire King is a lot easier to stop, and it's more vulnerable into hand traps because you don't have all the extenders, and especially in Nibiru, it's harder to play into that sometimes. And yeah, but I mean, it's a solid deck. I just think that Pure Fire King is definitely. I just think, god damn, bro, come on. Snake Eyes Fire King is definitely the way to go if you want to be competitive playing a Fire King deck. And another fire deck is Rescue Ace. So Rescue Ace, I think, so like it was already worse than Fire King Snake Eyes after it was pretty evident after the Worlds qualifiers that Fire King Snake Eyes was the best fire deck and Rescue Ace was was second best. And it's only gotten worse from the ban list hit, because it hit Bonfire, and I know this is gonna sound weird, but the hit the Bonfire is more. It honestly feels like a bigger hit to Rescue Ace than it does to Fire King Snake Eyes, because again, Fire King Snake Eyes has so many other lines of play. They have Fire King Island, they have the All-Canics, they have just the Ponix itself, and the fact that they lost one Bonfire, honestly, it doesn't even feel like that big of a deal. Whereas Rescue Ace losing one Bonfire is actually kind of a big deal, because its best starter was Bonfire at Poplar. Now, Poplar by itself in Rescue Ace is actually not a good draw. It's like a semi-brick even, because opening Poplar is basically like opening Hydrant, and Hydrant by itself doesn't actually get you combo. You need combinations of other cards in order to do that. And Now that Bonfire is at 2, you just have a higher chance of bricking on the 1 Poplar that you run instead of you can draw the 1 Poplar before you draw the 2 Bonfires. Now your Bonfires are dead, and you're not going to run more copies of Poplar because Poplar isn't exactly the best card to draw. Like, you would probably run more copies of Hydra before you even run Poplar, because at least that works with emergency and, you know, doesn't automatically lose the game if you get hand trapped after normal summon. And yeah, also, you know, Air Leopard did go to 2 as well, so it in my opinion, Rescue Ace got hit harder on the balance than Fire King Snake Eyes when it was already a worse fire deck than Fire King Snake Eyes. So yeah, and the other fire deck, if this is Pures or Snake Eyes, Kashtira Snake Eyes. So here's the thing: nobody is gonna play this deck anymore. Nobody is gonna play pure Snake Eyes as of right now, because with Bonfire at 2, you only have like 13 starters now. 1 Ash, 2 Bonfire, 1 Wanted. I mean, the deck is perfectly fine. It's a very good deck. It's good, but like, why would you? Most people are gonna probably be thinking, why would you be playing pure Snake Eyes instead of Fire King Snake Eyes or one of the other fire decks now? Even though if you were to play this, I think this deck is still really good. Like, obviously, it's probably not as good as Fire King Snake Eyes anymore, because it just simply doesn't have enough engine. As of right now, we don't have the new Diabellstar support, or like the Snake Eyes Diabellstar and all that stuff. So really, this deck is kind of struggling to find playable cards. But it's still, it's at the end of the day, it's still a deck that runs by Bellstar, Snake Eyes cards, Flampers, and all of the broken cards that are still all legal. They're just hit on the ban list. But yeah, in fact, a deck that's probably going to do better than Fire King than Snake Eyes is Pearly. In fact, Pearly did do better in the Worlds qualifier. But I don't think, the thing is, I don't think Pearly is a better deck than pure Snake Eyes. It's just that Pearly is going to see more play than pure Snake Eyes, because nobody's going to play pure Snake Eyes. Even though if you do, for some reason, decide you want to play pure Snake Eyes for some reason, I think it's a better deck. But yeah, Pearly is probably after the fire decks. I think Pearly or Yubel. I can see either one of these being the next best deck afterwards. The thing with Pearly is it got quote unquote hit on the balance, but the hits from Black Cat going from 3 to 2 is literally the least consequential hit that could have been made on the deck, because you didn't even want to hard draw Black Cat necessarily. You would ideally want to summon Black Cat off your quick play spells, because the best part about Pearly is Pearly Street, which is an absolutely insane card, and it solos a lot of matchups like Rescue Ace, and it also protects all your plays from hand traps, but only on their special summon monster. So if you normal summon your Black Cat that you hard drew, then that leaves you open to all the disruption, all of the hand traps that actually do hurt you. But yeah, I don't think this deck got really hurt at all, and it was already arguably the 3rd or 4th best deck in the Worlds qualifier, so I don't see a reason why I should drop down any further. Next, let's go to Vanquish Soul and Kashtira. These are going to be, we're entering the Shifter deck territory. So Shifter is still a really good card, and you know, with the introduction of Yubel, it arguably got even better as another meta deck that kind of just dies the Shifter. And I think currently, I think Vanquish Soul and Kashtira are probably among the 2 best Shifter decks you could play. There's pros and cons to each. Vanquish Soul is just consistent. It's really resilient to hand traps, which are still popular right now, especially like Maxi. Both of these decks play around Maxi pretty well, and they can run Shifter. Shifter, when you resolve, is auto win. I think Kashtira's board is a bit better than the Vanquish Soul board, because, you know, Arise Hard is still legal, and Birth is back at 3 now, and having Birth back at 3 is so huge for follow-up and resiliency. And even if you get hand traps, now having a Birth on field that your opponent has to be cognizant of, you know, banishing their entire grave while you have Kashtira monsters banishing your opponent's cards. Like, this deck is solid. Again, the only issue is trying to find a way to make Kashtira consistent enough to be playable. So you know, stuff like Pathfinder or Small World. And Vanquish Soul is it's like Kashtira, but like a bit more consistent. But it doesn't have the boss monster in a Rise Heart that Kashtira has. Even though Typhon is a bit annoying for Kashtira because it does shut down the Arise Heart. It doesn't remove the macro effect though. So if you can't play under the macro effect, then the Typhon doesn't solve the issue. Okay, well it kind of does. Like you can make Typhon, then you can just detach to get rid of the Arise Heart, but then your turn kind of ends there. So if you couldn't play under the macro, then you had to kind of just give up your turn to out the Arise Heart, and then with 3 birth now there's like and the Rise Heart is at 3, so there's ways to just make a Rise Heart again. On the next turn, you have to play that game. And also, Kashtira can play around Typhon by simply hard making a Rise Heart. And if they do that, then the Rise Heart is they only special summon once from the extra deck, and you can't even summon Typhon against the Rise Heart then. So, that might be a more common play. Looking for the other shifter decks, Flu and Exosis. Like I don't think, in my opinion, if you're gonna play a shifter deck, there are better options than these two. Flu, like I cannot with good conscience recommend anyone play Flu, because the deck it's just not a good experience playing Flu. I don't even mean the playset. I just mean that majority of games are just not under your control. They're like you have 1 to 2 playable cards, and if you get hand trapped, then you lose. But if you don't, then you win. But yeah, and then there's like blowout cards like Feather Storm that you can randomly draw and sack your opponent with. But then if you open that going second, that's also not good. So it's a whole ordeal with Flu that you can probably make it work, but it's not gonna feel good. And this deck is like less consistent than Kashtira. And the Kashtira is already, not renowned for its consistency. So I cannot recommend you playing less consistent Kashtira shifter. And Exorcister is just, also it's kind of just worse Kashtira in my opinion. You can argue it might be marginally more consistent, but it's so much more vulnerable to hand traps. Unlike the other shifter decks, this one hard loses to max C. Its end board without shifter is kind of vulnerable even, and especially to hand traps. Hand traps affect Exorcister way more than the other shifter decks, except maybe Flu. But even Flu at least has a way to auto win versus Imperm by hard drawing the quick play spell, the Advent Adventure, whereas the Exorcister kind of just has to hope your opponent, better have it, and if they do, then well, yeah, it kind of sucks. It's not even. Because we have the secret pack now, Exorcister isn't even to have the advantage of being cheaper to make the Kashtira now, because Kashtira now you can just pull out of a secret pack and you got it. So similar, Exorcister isn't cheap by its own right either. So if you want to decide between if you want to build an expensive Xyz based shifter deck between Kashtira and Exorcister, I'm going to recommend Kashtira over Exorcister every time. And the next stun deck, anti-meta, whatever you want to call it, Heroes Darklaw Turbo. I don't think this isn't really the format for, like, yeah, you can make Darklaw, sure, but it's the other, anything besides Darklaw in the hero kit now is kind of its other plays are like DPE and favorite heroes setting up pops with the Shining Wingman fusion thing, which pops cards, which destruction based interruption is not really the strongest right now, when Fire King Snake Eyes is the best deck and Yubel is a new deck that's introduced in the game. So yeah, and Darklaw by itself isn't even a game ender right anymore, because it's only a 2400 attack that has no disruption. It's not like a Rise Heart, where a Rise Heart is huge and it also provides disruption, whereas they can, one Unicorn famously runs over a Darklaw. Yeah, I'm sorry, hero players. Now, there's one shifter deck that I ignored before, that I overlooked, and that's Sprite. I think Sprite, I thought that any version of Sprite that wasn't really Live Twin was still not exactly the best, the most viable deck, even with Jet at 2. And This Sprite is actually pretty good. And it's not because Jet went 2 or anything. That's not the only reason. It's because Sprite can be built in a way that plays Shifter. And by that I mean you're not running any of the other level 2 engines like Frogs or Nimbles or any of those engines. They're not even that good, to be frank, because they're hit so hard that there's so many bricks in them. But you run the Dark Beckoning Beast engine. You know, Yubel isn't the only deck that runs Dark Beckoning Beast and Spirit Gates. Sprite, those cards are level 2s, and one Dark Beckoning Beast is 2 to 3 level 2 buys by itself, which is enough for you to do your Sprite combo. And the best part about that is that's an engine that's completely independent of the grave. Like, you can revive Dark Beckoning Beast from the grave with Spirit Gates, but if you have the Shifter, you can just Shifter them instead, and then you're better for it. And you can run like Hero Kid. I know Hero Kid in 2024, but like all the other Sprite engines aren't that great either. You know, like your Nimble engine, your 1 Beaver, your Frog engine with your 1 Swap Frog. Like the Hero Kid engine isn't that many more bricks, and it has the advantage of being able to build a board through Shifter. I've seen Sprite decks end on 3 to 4 interruptions under Shifter. Like, they will set up a red Carrot IP, the Melfi to add Caddy plus a Gin Buster, and then all of that while under Shifter. That's probably like the best board that any Shifter deck can make. So I think this deck is actually maybe actually the best way to play Sprite now, and one of the better Shifter decks. The only thing is that unlike these Shifter decks, this does lose the starts hard past Maxi, so that's an issue. You know, you can't make a Rise Sergeant 3 summons, or it can't just pass with Vanguard Soul monsters in hand. It has to pass on nothing if you get Maxi. So that's the unfortunate part. And yeah, the other Sprite deck that I thought was one of the better ones was Lifetime Sprite, and I think the pure Sprite with Shifter is better than a Lifetime Sprite now, since you know, Lifetime Sprite cannot run Shifter, and also cannot run other hand traps like Nibiru's and stuff like that, because they block your field from your Life Twin monster. Your Life Twin monster, you have to control no monster to get your Life Twin monster's effect. So it's kind of a bit more limiting there, and it's mainly like these are similar decks. They just run a bunch of hand traps and the Sprite engine, but one has access to better hand traps than the other. So I think pure Sprite is actually probably better than Lifetime Sprite now, which is not something I thought I would be saying last tier list. And Labyrinth. So Labyrinth. Yeah, I don't know. As long as Snake Eyes Fire King is the best deck, Labyrinth seems like a iffy choice, because the best deck just completely counters you. But then with the introduction of Yubel, which is another deck that doesn't really care about destruction based of disruption, like from Labyrinth, you know, Big Welcome, Lovely Lady, all that stuff. So it's another deck where Labyrinth's in-engine disruption isn't the greatest against, and it didn't really gain too much. Now there is one card that's unexplored in Master Duel for Labyrinth that got a lot better with the release of Typhon, and that's Backjack. So Backjack lets you access your good traps, now, you know, like your Darumaka and stuff like that, and not your Labyrinth track, which your Labyrinth tracks aren't that great disruption, but your Darumaka and your Dogmatic Punishments are way better, and which Backjack is a card that lets you access those. And prior to Typhon, it wasn't like it was a really bad brick, especially going second, because we only have 4 furnitures, and if you didn't hard draw Backjack with a furniture, that card was just complete ass, especially going second. At least going first, you could have more ways to search furniture, but going second, drawing a Backjack without a furniture is absolutely terrible. Now, that's not so much the case right anymore, because with the release of Typhon, you can do the play of normal summon Backjack, and it's gonna force something, because you can just simply overlay a Typhon over the Backjack. I mean, you don't care about ending your turn. You're a backup deck. You can just set a bunch of cards after making the Typhon anyways. And if they don't remove the Backjack on a normal summon, then when you go into Typhon, your Typhon pressures their board, it can remove their monsters. And then whenever the Typhon dies or you detach for the Typhon, the Backjack goes to the grave, and then the Backjack triggers to get you another trap. And it's actually a decent buff for the deck going second. Now, I don't think that's not gonna solve the deck's issues. Like, it's still not the best going second, because it is a trap deck, but at least it got maybe very slightly better from this pack if you want to run the backjack stuff and run a more trap heavy build with like better traps like Darumba instead of like going full on hand traps and furniture, which might be the better way to play Labyrinth going forward. Chimera, so it still feels bad playing Chimera because branded. I'll say this for pretty much the entirety of like branded in Master Duel until we get the new Chimera cards, because branded engine, one branded fusion hurts slashing the brand engine in Chimera. The Runic engine, it's hit arguably even harder than the branded engine, which is the other popular way to play Chimera. And then there's like Horus Chimera, which is okay, but it's not even really the best way to play Horus, and then it also cuts into non-engine space and all of that stuff. But yeah, it's also very weak to Ash Blossom still if you don't open very specific hands. So yeah, and the ceiling of the deck is not even that high right now. Like, what, you're gonna set up a Guardian Chimera plus a hand rip? That's not really among the best you can do this format. Now, regular branded, I think so. Regular branded is actually a lot better than Chimera and like Chimera brand variants, and theoretically branded has a good matchup against the best deck in the format, which is Fire King Snake Eyes, because most of Fire King's development is destruction based, which you don't care too much about it. You have a lot of board breaking tools that work well against Fire King, like Mirror Jade, like Rinbrum. Rinbrum can negate Princess's effects and Ambler Whale's effects in Grave to bring back their Link monsters like Masquerada, and your engine has a lot of tools to deal with their engine. The problem is, Branded doesn't have the most room for non-engine, whereas Fire King Snake Eyes still has room for non-engine. So you're not just fighting engine versus engine. You're fighting engine. Your huge engine with a lot of engine requirements versus their engine plus their non-engine and other hand traps and stuff like that, and then it gets, that gets tilted in their favor. It's not like we have 3 brand fusion and 3 Alibur and 3 opening in Master Duel like we do in TCG. That's where people have been seeing a lot of success with Branded in TCG versus the Fire meta, just because their version of Branded is so much stronger. Right now, we're kind of down bad for how to build Branded in Master just because of all the limitations. People are playing Grass, but then when you play Grass, you make your deck even less consistent, arguably. And then it's like, how do you fit non-engine in your deck? You need non-engine to win in best of 1 when you go second, but like, I mean, how do you fit the non-engine in your deck, right? It's a puzzle that hasn't been solved yet, and people are bringing back the puppet lock in Master Duel. Master Duel traditionally hates the puppet lock, but then you have like people topping the Worlds qualifiers with puppet lock in their main deck, which is, if this format forces branded players to puppet lock you again, man, that's a bit troll despair right there. But yeah, I think branded is still one of the better decks. You could argue whether it's better than shifter decks or not, but Brandon has his own version of a shifter. It's turn skip, gimmick puppet. And here we have 3 Cybers decks. I think these 3 will be just put next to each other until the end of time. It's just Adagnister, Math Mech, and Salad Magre. It's like pick your flavor of Cybers deck. They're all relatively have the similar game plan of hand traps, 1 to 2 card combos, and then make a strong enough board to usually win the game when you resolve it. And yeah, they're just like slight differences between the 3. Adagnister has the highest ceiling end board, so if you full combo with Adagnister, you're definitely not losing. And Mathmech has the most room for flex spots and hand traps, although it is also the most linear. So the Bystios aren't really in the format right now, so that's one of the biggest weaknesses that Mathmech has, but it's not that big of a deal right now. And Salad is like Salad. Annoyingly, Salad has an SP problem, and SP is like, it's a lot more of an issue now with Yubel in the format, because Yubel kind of can just nuke your normal summon with stuff like Rage and, well, not Rage, but it can nuke your bodies on the field to where you can't. It makes it hard to extend, but yeah, you also have more tools to deal with floodgates. You're also more resilient to floodgates because you're literally just fire cybers, so you're like not different attributes and all of that stuff. So you're not hit by like random Gozens, and obviously rivalry doesn't affect you, and you have Foxy to out floodgates. But yeah, it's also a destruction based interruptions in like Rage and Pyro Phoenix, which is a bit weaker versus the format than the interruption that Cyber or that Adagnister and Mathmech have. So that's why I'm putting it as like the worst of the three, although it's still decently fine. Like these are relatively in like the same place in the meta, in my opinion. Lyrilusc. So I kind of put this here because, like, funnily enough, this is maybe one of the few decks in the entire game that would run 2 Zeus. I'm talking more specifically of more like the pure builds of Lyrilusc, where you're just mainly making a symbol when you're going second. You're just making a symbol Nightingales to attack, and then overlaying the Zeus into like fat Zeuses to, you know, clear opponent's board. But then, you know, you don't kill them, so then turn after you can attack with your Zeus, and then overlay a Zeus on top of your Zeus, and then just keep doing that. That's actually a important follow-up for Lyrilusc. Now, I don't think that's really the best way to play Lyrilusc. That's just like a funny thing you could do from like 2022 when people played pure Lyrilusc. But I think the best way to play Lyrilusc is still with the Snake Eyes cards. When obviously if you're playing Snake Eyes cards from Lyrilusc, you do not have room to run 2 Zeus in your extra. Maybe not even 1 Zeus. But yeah, because it can take advantage of Snake Eyes cards, it's okay. But it's yeah, it's not really the main way people are playing with Snake Eyes and Snake Eyes stars anymore, especially since there's probably better decks that take advantage of the Snake Eyes cards than Lyrilusc. But yeah, Runic. This is basically a blanket for Runic. All of the non-stun Runic combo variants like Bistio Runic, Materia Runic, Plunder Runic, Runic for Hire, Sprite, all of that stuff. I think most of them are pretty similar deck-wise. Oh, and I guess Generator. Again, the problem is SP is in the game now, and SP just completely destroys Runic strategies. It's so rough. It's really hard to stop SP from balancing your fountain, since they can, even if you have flashing fire, they can just dodge the flashing fire, or they can, well, not flashing fire, the freezing curses. They can just dodge freezing curses with SP itself, so that the fountain always gets banished. And then because fountain is limited in Master Duel, because the Runic engine is like torn to shreds in Master Duel, one SP can just literally end the game, and every deck is running SP. So that's always going to be the issue of Runic. And it doesn't even have, I guess Bistio Runic now with like Legacia, it has the highest ceiling. So if you go first uninterrupted and don't get max seed, then I suppose it's at least confident enough to win the game if your combo is uninterrupted going first. But yeah, going second is hard again because you're playing Runic. You have no room really for flex spots, and then you have to run all the bad Runic spells because Master Duel Runic limits lol. Yeah, it's just Horus variants. Okay, so I don't know what to do about Horus variants. I thought Horus Stun was the best way to play Horus, but then Horus Stun also, you know, some Elimina is at 1 now, so you just lost some floodgates, and it's not like the deck performed well in the Worlds qualifiers, the Sun version. And then pretty much for the majority of other decks that play Horus, they're all low tier 3 or rogue strategies for the most part. You know, like Phantom Knight Horus, or like I guess you could play Horus with Centurion. I'm not sure how good that is. And then it's just Horus Bistio, Horus Runic. Oh, not Horus Runic. Horus Resonator. I think the best deck that played Horus is honestly, I don't want to call it Tierlaments because it's not really like Tierlaments. The deck ran no tier traps. It was just the tier monsters as a way to mill cards, so that you can mill Necroface into the grave. And then you have a bunch of Snake Eyes cards that literally the only purpose they serve is that they make a 1-card Curious, so that you can dump stuff. You can Foolish a card the grave, and then you ran like triple snow. Like that's probably the most successful way that people have been using Horus cards. But like Horus pile, just go all in. If your opponent maxes you, you deck him out through maxi. That's yeah. I'm not sure that's really like one of the most stable strategies or the most viable strategies for tournaments. But I mean, they did top the world's qualifier, so you know what do I know. But yeah, that's not really. It's not really Horus with pure tier. That's the tier cards are honestly just there to mill cards. It's not really there for tier strategies. I guess speaking of tier, yeah, Tierlaments is fine. It's a fine deck. I don't know where to put it. If it's better than Life Twin, I can put it here, or yeah, I can see it go all the way up to here, like all the way up into the shifter deck. Since tier is the solid, like I know I talk shit about Horus tier. I don't think Horus tier is exactly terrible or anything. I think tier is a heavily overplayed deck. It's still probably the second most played deck in the game right now, which it's definitely not the second best deck in the game. I'll tell you that right now. It's the deck is way too many choke points, especially like if you get hitting Kit is still as strong of a hand trap target as ever. It's just sometimes there are hands with tier that they feel unstoppable. Like it feels like you couldn't win. Like they hard drew a couple tier spell and trap cards, and then they have extended like do a shear, and then they milled ways to you let them mill, and then they mill like a shuffler plus a tribute karma to get the field spell. Like they still high rolls like that, and at worst case scenario you're milling 10 and probably ending on a fusion plus a couple tier traps, and that's resilient through maxi, and that's assuming Imperm doesn't end your turn. It's also relatively saving the other hand traps, and it doesn't really play in the draw as well. Like it's a solid deck. I don't think it's tier. I don't think it's like top 5 or anything, but it's a fine deck. What's not a fine deck is stun. Man, like I hate that stun is still playable. They hit summon limit and they hit Kaiser Coliseum, so that's a start. I mean it's a start. They've been hitting stun like every ban list for like the past year, and their deck is still being played, and I hate it. But you still have to respect it. Like at least Horus stun variants are relatively dying down a bit, at least from what I've seen. But you know, pure stun is still pure stun. It's yeah. Okay, Infernoble Knight is up next. I guess I'll put these two in like the same category. So Infernoble Knight and Stuns and Rika, which Rika has been making a comeback in some Master Duel tournaments. That's why you can see it on a Master Duel tier list. This is just these are just decks that go over the top. They're like, oh, we're gonna win the coin flip and we're gonna FTK you, and you know we're not gonna win a lot of games going second, but when you have like an 80 to 90% win rate going first and a 30-40% win rate going second, you know what? That's still pretty good. That's like 60% win rate. That's good enough. That's pretty decent. And going second and losing the coin flip and your opponent normal summons Loci or your opponent normal summons Neospace Connector, absolute worst feeling in the world if you don't have Maxi or like 43 hand traps to do it. Because you know your one Imperm that you have is not going to cut it, and your opponent is going to set up their FTK board, and you're just going to have to sit through that and lose, or you're just going to have to go next. So yeah, that's the niche that these two decks have in the format. Dynamorphia is a different flavor of winning going first, in that you're not making your opponent sit through your combo. You're like Theresia setting 5 and then having your opponent go. Now it's a lot less auto win this format, because you know when the best deck in the format is Fire King Snake Eyes. Fire King Snake Eyes has ways to pop Rex Term that aren't on the field, so they get around the Rex Term mean a skill drain. There's also decks are playing Super Poly now. It's like some Yubel builds are playing Super Poly, and obviously Super Poly is disastrous when you're playing a dark based fusion deck. And yeah, but it's still like hard draw the out. There happens to be a bit more outs in the in the meta, but you still have to hard draw them usually. And Ash Blossom is not an out. Ash Blossom is never resolving versus Dynamorphia. You guys, it has 6 copies of Solemn Strike, 3 of which are searchable, and like your Maxies and your Ash Blossoms are generally not gonna really do anything. If you have those, you can just kind of consider those as hand loops because they're those cards are just gonna get counter trapped anyways, and then you're gonna have to deal with Rexstorm with minus cards in hand. And this deck got a decent card from this set, which is Iron Thunder. And Iron Thunder is basically another copy of Solemn Judgment, except it's a lot better going second because you can it works plain into the board. It's like a Solemn Strike, Solemn Judgment hybrid that pops a card in a column after it negates it, which nobody is going to play around Iron Thunder. I'm going to tell you that right now. And you're going to pop a lot of free cards with Iron Thunder this way. And I don't think it's enough to like really change the like how good the deck is, or like how viable the deck is. It's because the deck is still struggles going second. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there's a reason why trap decks with Solemn Strikes aren't dominating the format going second. Like yeah, you can use a board wipe trap card plus Solemn Strike, and then that works, right? Well, I mean, what do you do when your opponent has removal for you during your turn, like in the end phase or in the end of your main phase? And then, like, you know, how do you deal with that? And they just start sniping your back before you even get a chance to activate them. It's yeah. But I mean, Iron Thunder, you know, more 3 more copies of Solemn Judgment. So now you're gonna have to deal with up to 9 Solemns plus all the counter traps versus Dynamorphia plus Shield Drain. So yeah, good luck if you lose the coin flip against the Dynamorphia. That I'll say that right now. Tri-Brigade. So there's always that one guy that fucking tops 100s of Duelist Cup with Tri-Brigade. I don't know how they do it. I think this Tri-Brigade is like the 3rd best version of Sprite, and like maybe the 4th best way to play Fire King, which I don't even think they were playing Fire King cards in their build. So it was just pure Tri-Brigade Sprite, and somehow that's good enough to win in this format. So, you know, props to them. You know, they're a better duelist than I am. I don't personally, I don't see how they fucking do it, but it yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, it's the placement for the bottom of tier 3 is it gets a little wonky in my opinion. You could I think all of these are past pure Fire King can be interchangeable in some way or another. So this looks right, just putting the 2 beast type wing beast, tri beast type archetype decks next to each other. Paleo. Okay, if you're Joshua Schmidt, sure. If you're not Joshua Schmidt, this deck is so bad. I don't know how people play this deck, bro. It's so miserable going second. And then there's like, it's not even immune to hand traps. Getting ashed on something like a Needlebuzz next hurts like hell. And it's not even an auto win when you go first in set 5 because you have to rely on a million good cards and something you just don't roll the rollback. And then it's like, and people know how to play against you, and they chain block all your Paleos, and you're like, well, what do I do with now? Like, and the games take forever, which I guess that could be a positive if you want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! But imagine wanting to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Like, couldn't be me. Mikanko. So I have Mikanko 8 access here. Mikanko is weird, okay? I'm not counting Mikanko as a blind second deck. It is sometimes a blind second deck, but the best way to play Mikanko is not as a blind second deck. I don't know how the hell that we arrived at this, like, we arrived at this meta where Mikanko is way better going first than it is going second. There's like 2 main ways to play Mikanko going first. One is pure, which is just like you're playing the pure Mikanko stuff with a bunch of floodgates, you know, classic Master Duel strategy. Then the other way is the warrior pile, which is like you're using Mikanko cards as bait, as warrior extenders to make Isolde. You're basically playing Infernoble pile, except with Mikanko cards. And that shit is annoying as hell because you think, oh, I'm going to use my hand trap on the Mikanko cards, okay? Because what else am I gonna hand trap? Oh wait, here comes the Isolde. Oh, I guess I lost the game. And yeah, that's happened to me a few times. Resolving Isolde is still game. And yeah, 60 card Mikanko Warrior pile is a real deck. So be wary of that. If your opponent's going first with Mikanko, please consider saving your hand traps against the Mikanko cards. 8 axes. This is just these are the blind second. 8 axes Strike. I don't think these are. And the strength of 8 axes is in the fact that it can run board wipes and like Kaiju Slumber, which is a board wipe and an extender, except in this format, when you're playing against Yubels and you're playing against Fire King Snake Eyes and you're playing against Unaffected Noirs, your board breakers aren't as good. And then if your board breakers, your best cards aren't as good, then obviously it struggles. It's unfortunate. If there was less Fire King Snake Eyes in the meta, then I could actually play more Dark Holes and more Fragekis to get me there, then I would, I'd have a better opinion of 8 axes. But right now it's quite a chasm. I don't think blind second is really that viable. It hasn't been really that viable in a while, but especially now that the decks are just put up too strong of boards and are resistant to destruction too. And like, dude, this deck, Sky Striker, maybe I don't know. This deck just feels not good. Like, I've had Sky Striker opponents hand trap me like 2 to 3 times, completely stopped my board. Like, I literally ended on a Linkuriboh pass, and then they failed to kill me through my 1-2 hand traps, and then they lose because I have a follow-up and I get to do my combo again on the 3rd turn. That's really the problem with Strikers, because it wants to play as a blind second deck. I don't think you can really play Go First Striker anymore, because they banned Kaiser and they hit Summon Limit. I don't even know if they ran Summon Limit, but not having Kaiser Coliseum was like kind of the bigger deal. And when you go second to Strikers, yes, I know theoretically you can clear the board and you can OTK with Sky Striker. That doesn't realistically happen if your opponent actually sets up a board. Like, your opponent's playing Fire Kings and they set up an entire grave full of like Princess, and they have like Amlo Wheel, and they have Arvata, and then they have Kieran in hand. Like, you're not gonna OTK through that. And if you don't OTK your opponent, your opponent has follow-up. Every deck up here has some form of follow-up turn 3, and they're just gonna end the game on turn 3 when it passes back to them inevitably. Like, you could get 2 to 3 draws off engaged, use couple board breakers, completely break their field, and then set up like 2 Widow Anchors, or like a Widow Anchor and a Shark Cannon as your disruptions. Like, that's not enough. I'm sorry, Striker players. I'm not the biggest fan of Ray personally. Not because I have anything against the Striker deck. I just think the Striker deck is kind of mid-af right now, and it's like it has like a Tierlaments in it where Striker is played so much, and it's for like not being good. At least Tier is like, maybe you could consider it close to like a top. It's definitely like a top 10 deck. It's one, and then I don't really have a problem calling Tier a good deck. I really think Sky Striker, for how much it's played, it's so mid. I don't. I guess I understand why people play it, but I can't see why people would want to play so much Striker when it's not that. Like, Striker is definitely more played than literally any other deck here past Tier 2 than probably just Tier, and it's definitely not as good as most of these decks. It is what it is. Monodium, it's Wombo combo deck, goes over the top, and it wins going first, and it struggles going second sometimes because it doesn't have as much room for non-engine, and it is what it is at this point. Super Heavy Samurai, I don't know where to put this. This deck, I think this deck has like gone extinct. I haven't seen this deck at all. I've seen it once in the that one dude at Top Worlds with a Super Heavy Samurai Junk Speeder 60 card pile. Okay, that guy's a god. But if you're not a god, this deck feels like it. 9 starters. Really, 9 starters? We're gonna do this? We're really doing this? It's like flu levels of consistency here. with a bit of a higher ceiling and more room to play hand traps, I guess, because you don't have to run the you know, all the bird cards and stuff like that. But yeah, maybe the best way to play this is in like a hybrid 60 card pile and stuff like that. But then it's like I don't think it's the I don't think those piles have been solved yet. I'll say that. Valmonica. So there's one Valmonica top in like the top 100 of the world's qualifiers. You know what that deck was? Triple Summon Limit Kaiser Coliseum. Yeah, plus Baguska. Hell yes. What a cool deck, bro. I love how every new deck when their engine's not strong enough, they just resort to floodgates. I love this game. And unfortunately for them, you know, Summon Limit and Kaiser Coliseum not really a thing anymore. So I guess that's a decent hit to Valmonica. I don't know. Like, this deck seems kind of, it's alright, but it seems kind of weak to disruption a lot of times. It doesn't. There's a lot of hands where it just loses to one hand trap, or it loses to your opponent reading the cards, which I know Yu-Gi-Oh players and reading, but if your opponent reads the cards, their win rate against Valmonica improves significantly. I'll say that. At least its end board is okay. Like Baguska plus a couple bounces, it's fine. It should be good enough to win this tournament. It's just I don't. It's yeah, I wouldn't put it any higher than Rogue, to be honest. Unchained. So this is not Yubel. This is pure Unchained, and I don't know if anyone is even playing pure Unchained anymore. Like I haven't seen this deck in. I've seen it like twice in the last month total, and I think the deck is fine. Theoretically, it should have a good matchup against Fire King because it's destruction based on the fact. But I just feel like this deck is on the verge of just not gonna be played at all anymore. Especially because people are playing Yubel, and Yubel has a similar playstyle to Unchained, and even plays Unchained cards, like the most important Unchained cards, like Soul of Rage and Shavara, and sometimes Shayama to make the rank 6s. So, yeah, this deck has just never performed that well in Master Duel, and it's probably not going to perform in the future, just because nobody's going to be playing this in the future. Unfortunately, I think it's a decent deck. It's not the best deck. It's not like it's not what I would consider tier 2 or anything, but it's fine. Dragon Link it's not fine. So Dragon Link has the, out of all the decks here, I think Dragon Link gets hurt the most by Typhon, because Dragon Link is classic big boss monster with huge attack. And oftentimes you're ending on Borland and Savage Dragon, and that gets completely destroyed by Typhon because you don't have removal of that. They just summon a monster, plop a Typhon over it, and then you're done. You can't do anything. Your entire your board is moot. So you're gonna have to be careful if you play Dragon Link right now, and you're gonna have to make sure you have to end on either a Branded Beast or a Spheres or a IP in the SB just to check the Typhon. Otherwise, you're gonna lose the Typhon. Like their standard 1 card combo with or your standard combo to make Borderland plus Savage, that's not gonna cut it anymore, because there's literally a direct counter to that in the extra deck. And also Bistios still aren't that good right now. I know Yubel came out, but the best decks are still predominantly fire based, or Pearly that doesn't really care about Bistios, so they're still not good as hand traps. They're just, maybe there's some matchups where they're good against, but most of like Tierlaments, if you play against the tier player, Dragon Link still farms Tierlaments, so that's still its niche. But other than that, the Bistios they're not nearly as good now as they've been in past formats. And Memento is it kind of dropped off. Like I don't really see this deck that much anymore. I don't know. I think it's decent, but yeah, it's like I'll say that it's decent. Maybe we'll get the new support soon so that it becomes more interesting. Right now, it feels kind of like a deck that just spins its wheels to end on a very telegraphed interruption, and sometimes its hands are weird in the hand traps, but I guess that goes for a lot of decks, especially around this level of playability. So yeah, and my girl, at last, So I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna put it here in Rogue, but that's only because this deck is literally free. Every player owns this deck for free, so that's why I can recommend, like, if you would just want to play a deck that costs literally nothing to play Sorcerer. But I don't think Sorcerer is really that good right now. Like, I don't, like, realistically, if I want to put Sorcerer in terms of pure viability in the format, I would put it down here, because I just do not think Sorcerer can really cut it this format. And even the best hybrids of Sorcerer, like Super Heavy Samurai, the Super Heavy Samurai cards also got hit with this. So like you're playing like a deck that's the secondary engine that's even less consistent, and then it's hand traps. It's like Protoss Call Fire is not really a real thing, and I guess you can Protoss Call Dark and auto win against your Yubel opponent. So I guess you still have that if you get that far, and you don't get super polyed, I guess. Yeah, it's Sorcerer, but you know what Sorcerer does by now, and I think you also should know that Sorcerer isn't really one of the better picks for this meta. So yeah, that's man, this guy's just blabbing, man. Yeah, let me know your thoughts about this, and in the comments. I'll try to get to all the responses, and you know, please let me know where you think I'm wrong. I know this is far from perfect. It's just I want to cover my bases, and I covered a lot of decks, but yeah.